and welcome to the DIY Photo Organising Podcast, focusing on topics to help you with your photo management. I'm Chantal from Photos in Order.
And I'm Fiona from Photo Helper. Hello, hello.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good. Excited to talk about this topic today. I love all things software.
All right. It can be a bit overwhelming though. So today,
exactly, yes.
we are going to talk about photo management software, of course.
Yes.
And we will talk about, do you need it? And if so, what do you need?
Exactly. Because it's a choice. You don't have to have software to manage all your photos. But it could be something for someone to jump into if they haven't already. As an option, it might open up their whole world of photo organising for themselves. So
hopefully getting as excited as we are.
Yeah. I know, are we crazy? We get excited by photo management software. It's true though, I do. It's just such a great way to keep everything in order, which is always, that's nice.
Yeah.
Happy place. All right, so what are some of the things? So I thought if we start off, we can talk about what is photo management software, what kind of things can it do, and then our lovely listeners can decide whether or not that could be something that they look into further. So what is it?
What is it?
Yes.
Software.
What is photo management
It's software, of course. No, so it's basically any software that will help you to view your photos, but also to manage them, to organize them, to curate them.
Yeah,
really.
And edit. You can edit too
Yes.
in a lot of the software programs, and move around your photos easily. Just to sort of navigate, search, find things.
Yeah.
And like we said before, it's not always necessary. You can definitely just have folders, like we've talked about before, on your hard drive. And that's it. All your photos sit in there, and you just open them up as and when you want to. But things have changed in the world of software, which for the best.
Yes.
So if you want to have a bit more fun and jump around in your photos, we've got some suggestions on things you could consider to look for when choosing a software program.
Maybe we should also clarify, it's not an episode about us talking about different software and what they can do and can't do. This is going to be up to you. We will share our favorites further down the road, but it's about general tips. If you are looking at using a specific photo management software, what should you consider?
It's a really good question, I think, and that's why we wanted to touch on this one today, because it's a big job to get into a photo management software, and it can take a lot of time to bring in all your photos, and if you choose the wrong one, you could waste weeks, months, years really in something that you're not happy with, or you just sort of piecemeal things together, and then you realize, if I just made a decision up front. So it's really around that decision-making process of what to consider. So not necessarily the ins and outs of every program, but so jot down, grab yourself a bit of paper and a pen. If you're driving, don't do that. But just come back and revisit. We're going to go through 10 things for you to consider when choosing software, if you're going to jump into this world of photo management software, or if you're in something but you're really wanting to consider something else. All right, let's go. You want to start us off?
Yeah.
Okay. You start us off.
Number one, our first tip is, it sort of goes back to our why, knowing your why. Think about, what do you want to achieve, and what do you expect from that software, from that photo management software. Is one of your top goals to create photo books, for example? So maybe if that's the case, there is software out there that offers this. So it can do much more than just adding keywords. You can actually create projects within or with that software. And that might be an aspect for you to consider when you choose and when you look at different programs.
Exactly. So write down a list of things that you really want to do with the software. I think that's a really good place for us to start, that number one, because from there, then you can sort of, cross some things, because some software programs don't do things like that.
Yeah.
So if that's important to you, or maybe editing your photo within that software is important to you, or making a slideshow, or even facial recognition.
Yeah.
A lot more programs have that these days, but some still don't. So that could be something to consider as well. So what do you want to achieve? That's our first one.
Very good.
Our second one is, how tech savvy are you? So all software comes with a bit of a learning curve, even the most tech savviest of people, just to familiarise yourself around the program. But just being aware that there will be a learning curve, and choose something that suits your level. That's important.
Yeah. The next one, number 3, is the budget. So is there software that's free? There is actually.
Well, yes, we could tell them about.
Favorite.
Yes, it is.
It's free, but this is really an exception. Normally, you don't get free stuff, or at least it's no good. So consider the budget. Another one of our favorites. So maybe we'll just say, the free one is Adobe Bridge, which can do heaps of good things, and it's completely free. Another Adobe product is Adobe Lightroom, but this is anything but free.
Yes.
You have to subscribe, and you pay a monthly fee, and it's not costing the world, but it's up to you. You have to think about budget and how much you're prepared to invest.
Yeah, I think it's about $15 or so in Australia, about $10 US, which is really reasonable for a monthly software subscription these days. Yeah. It's sort of in par with a lot of different things, but it's still a monthly cost.
And it's also sometimes you need to consider subscription based, or you buy it. And just because you buy it at a flat rate now doesn't mean that no more cost will incur later on.
Yeah.
We know a few apps and softwares where, you had sort of that impression, or at least I had.
And then they come out with the next version, which they say, to get this upgrade, you actually have to pay again.
Yeah, and it's not like it's $20. It's, like $200 every year. And so this is something that we would have a closer look at.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. So just think about your budget, and then also when you're doing your looking at the different options, just check out what that includes, and upgrades and things like that. Number 4 is the time to learn the software. So depending on how tech savvy you are, like I said before, it'll take some time, but this is something to consider then. Just say you want to work on a project and you want to make that slideshow, and you've got a deadline looming for that. It's probably not, and maybe it's in 2 weeks' time. It's probably not the right time to say, I'm going to load all my photos and learn a new software program. I'm going to choose it, load them up, learn it, and get my slideshow ready in 2 weeks. Let's just say it's not likely to happen that way. Because like anything, you just need to have some time to go through it, and we'll get into our best practice tips in a moment, but part of that is definitely just giving yourself the best chance for success. So allow yourself some time to learn the software. It's important.
Next up, number 5 is the shareability. Is that even a word?
I know, we made it up today, so it's a word. Let's Google it.
These days, pretty much everyone wants to be able to share photos. So we're not talking about how you share a photo from your phone. It goes a bit further, and if you want a photo management software, this might be an aspect that we would recommend having a look at as well. How does that software allow you to share your photos? Can you even automate it in some ways? Or do you each time have to export the photos to a different place and then email it or something, which is really complicated? But that's just an aspect that we would look at as well.
Yep, definitely. And number 6 is the longevity of the program. So this is something that in our years of being photo organisers ourselves, we have come across different programs and providers that have come out with something fabulous and then they're no longer fabulous. Maybe they're just, they just haven't lasted the test of time there. But there are definitely companies and programs that have. And Adobe definitely is one of them. We're talking about Bridge and we'll talk about Lightroom as well. But just have a look at the longevity of the companies. Just make sure that they've got a bit of a track record, because, embarking on a project like starting a new project, photo management software, like I said before, it takes time and it's worth investing in that time, and you want to do something once, hopefully, and not over and over again.
Yes.
So just look on. You see things on Facebook posts, and they come up with some click this button, and it does everything for you, and we're like, I don't think really so. And they just started up last night, sort of thing. So. So just be careful. That's all we're saying. Please be careful. So just check, do your background. Have a look on that. Yeah.
Okay. So next up, number 7 is check whether the software is available for your operating system. Meaning, if you're a Windows person on a PC, you can't use a software that's made for Mac. And the other way around, it's the same thing. And there are softwares that do only operate on either one and not on both. So this is something, keep an eye out for that as well. Not that you're all excited and then you want to download and try it, and then you realise,
I know, I've done that before actually.
Yeah, me
I'm like,
too.
oh man, they do. I now have Windows and Mac, but in the past,
I mean, the typical example is that the Apple Photos app, it doesn't run on a PC, and it will never run. That's my personal prediction, but Apple is Apple and Windows is Windows, and they're two different things. So it's not an independent software. If you want to stay independent, you need to choose something different.
And or look at something that can go on both. So that then you can easily move over to a different platform if you want to, if that's important. All right, so number 8 is access to your photos. This is a really interesting one. We sort of assume that choosing a photo management software will allow us to just easily get our photos out if we wanted to, but that's not always the case, is it?
No.
And we find this happens a lot because we have clients that end up coming to us saying, I need help. We've got photos here and they're stuck here and I want it all out of this program. And it can really be difficult. So that is definitely on our list of things to consider, is how easy is it to actually get access to your photos. So we're not talking about just to see them, but if you wanted to move everything out of that program and into something else, what's involved?
Yeah, the typical example would be, as I mentioned, the Apple Photos library before. If you all of a sudden want to ditch your Mac and go to PC, you need to get these photos out somehow.
Yes.
And it's possible, but you got to do it right. Otherwise, you might lose stuff. and you don't want to do
lose
that.
some good
So
information and different things you've worked
this
on.
is not to say I wouldn't use Apple Photos. It's just something I think we need to be aware of.
To be aware of,
Yeah.
exactly. Absolutely. Yep. Or I was going to say, should we say the Google Photos thing? Oh,
Don't say the
no.
the
I
GP
almost
word.
didn't, but then I did.
I know.
I went there.
I had the same thought. That's really...
That's
and
the
it's,
difficult one.
a lot of people, unfortunately, do use Google Photos as their hub even, and it's
Yeah.
not backed up or anything, and they lose things, and then, you know, they want to restore from it, and they realise how difficult it is to get them out.
Yeah.
And again, it's not to say don't ever use Google Photos. It's just be aware that it's not that easy.
Yep.
But it's also not impossible. It is possible.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's just harder than it's necessary.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's on the list as number 8, access. All right, number 9.
Oh, our favourite.
Oh, yes.
Metadata.
Yay. You can't have an episode on the DIY Photo Organizer podcast without talking about metadata. All right.
Okay. So maybe for the new listeners who might not know what metadata is, what is it? Tell us.
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll tell you. All right. Metadata is the information. It's like you've got your printed photo that you used to get, and you'd turn it over and write on the back.
That's right. Yeah.
And you'd write maybe where you were, who was there, what was the event, and that's information about the photo. And so all metadata is information about the photo in a digital format, and it's just embedded into the file.
That sounds so easy. Bad news. It's not
Yeah.
always that easy.
Unfortunately.
So when we're looking at software choice, from a professional point of view and also, you know, general point of view, we would favour softwares that automatically embed the metadata into the file. There is software that, you know, each time you add a keyword, you have to manually tell it to save it to the file. And that can be just that little tiny bit too much for someone, you know, if you want things to happen automatically. This is something to consider when you choose your software. How automatic does it? Things like that. Plus, another one to look for is how does it treat the IPTC standards? Now, we're not going to go into details there, but IPTC standards are like things like keywords. So again, for example, Lightroom, when you add a keyword in Lightroom, it is going to stick to the file, and then it's in the right place, and whatever you do with that file, if you send it or export or whatever you do, it's not going to lose that because it uses the right field. So that's very techy stuff, but this is something that you also might want to consider. And there is software out there that has these fields, but they actually land in the wrong. It's sort of hard to explain.
Yeah, I think if we just sort of say, look at the metadata options, and when we get to our best practice, we're going to give you some ideas as to how to check for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but this is definitely, metadata is definitely, because there's a whole area, and we've got podcasting metadata.
We have.
Maybe just jump back into one of those, and I'll put the note. I'll put that in the notes as to the number. I'll reference that in the notes as to which number it is.
Yeah.
And we do talk about that at great length. But needless to say, it is definitely something to consider when choosing. You may not even choose to put metadata in.
Yeah.
You know, some people don't, you know, maybe just a person's name here or there, or just change the title of the photo or something like that. So this may not be something that you wish to consider, but it's on the list of things that you may wish to consider when choosing.
I just bring a typical example for that is the actual Windows Photos app that comes with every Windows computer these days.
Photos,
they have it's
called
same name
Photos.
as Mac, you know, it's called Photos, which is very, very basic. And within that Photos app, you can't see or add keywords or tags, for example.
I know.
But if, as you just said, if that's not something you actually want to do,
then you won't need
it might be a good program because it can do
Exactly.
facial recognition. You can favor your favorites with the little love heart. You can delete, you can edit, you can do little slideshows and things like that, but it can't do metadata. So
Yeah.
that's why we say, there's so many options out there, and depending on what you're after and what you actually want to achieve, that will make a difference. Yeah.
And I think when you were just talking, I was thinking another good way to consider that with the metadata is what would you see yourself doing a search for? And if your answer is not much, as far as you just, you sort of know where the photos are and you really don't think you're going to, type in something to search for, then you may choose not to use that. But if you like to search for different things, or you want that exact photo from the first day of school, or the first tooth coming out, or whatever it is, or all the pictures of your dog, out on the beach or something like that, then you can just type that in and it'll all pop up. Only if the program is being managed, that program has the right processes for managing metadata.
Yes. Yeah. There's massive differences.
Yeah. And drum roll, number 10. So the last one is just to consider if the program can handle the importing of different file formats. This might not necessarily be a problem if you don't use, say, a digital SLR camera or something like that, or but it's not only sort of raw files for camera. We're talking about file formats here that would import into your software program. But even phones, like Apple iPhone came out with the HEIC file format, and it really hasn't sort of been taken on by a lot of other programs to recognize that file format. A little bit more now, but is the program that you're looking for able to manage a range of file formats? Because there are so many file formats out there.
Yes.
My goodness. And it's hard to keep up because they keep coming out with different ones, don't they?
Yeah.
So, but that's definitely something to consider. Is the software that you're looking for, do you need it to? Do you have different, do you have a Sony camera, a Nikon, Canon? Do you still use those types of other file formats that you need it to be able to import in? Because some of them don't. Yeah, so to be aware of it.
So,
Best tips. Yes.
Test. Do a test before you commit. Test one or two different apps or softwares, however you want to call it. Just take a little range of photos, maybe 100 or so, and have a go. Test things out before you commit.
Yep.
Especially
Definitely,
if it is costly, and they all offer that these days. You can always trial it for free for at least 2 weeks. And some you might already have. You have, when you're on a PC, you've got that native Photos app on your PC. Go have a look.
And just bring some photos into it.
Yeah. And same with Apple. If you're on a Mac and you don't use the Photos app yet, go check it out. Have a look. Get a feel for it. Sometimes it's also things like interface that, just are more or less attractive. And you want something that you like working in. So you've got some fun.
Yeah, a little bit of fun. We say about 100 or so. I think that's a great, you can sort of create a whole range of different sort of test things for yourself. Maybe write down a little list of what you're going to do and, try importing and then export the photos and try some of the different features. If you're looking at editing, how easy is that to do? Does it sync up with your phone? If you've got it on, on your computer, a whole range of different things, but definitely test it all out. You don't want to test it with your entire library.
No.
And you're uploading, tens of thousands of photos, only to say, I really don't like the way it does that. And then you try it all over again.
Yeah. No.
So our favourites. We'll finish off with some of our favourite photo management software.
What's yours? Do you want to start?
Yes, I do have to say that previously I was Apple Photos.
Yeah.
But in the last few years, I am definitely a big fan of Adobe Lightroom. That's Adobe Lightroom Classic. There's just take my word for it, without going into all the details. So yes, Adobe Lightroom Classic is just fabulous. It really does tick all of my boxes, and it, when considering all of those options, which I've done too, when choosing software. So on the tech savvy side, look, I find it is a bit of a learning curve, and a dear friend of ours, Adam Pratt, has said in one of his training courses that he does on Lightroom, he's sort of referred it to, like when you first open up the program to like the dashboard of a plane, cockpit in the plane or something like, what are all these buttons? But it's take a big deep breath and then jump in, and it's great. It just can do a lot. So that's a big favourite of mine, and I do still use Apple Photos. I love that too. It's great, but my preference is Lightroom. What about you?
Awesome. I could just say ditto, because I used Apple Photos as well to start out, and then got into Lightroom, which has become my favourite, absolutely. So I'm have moved everything from Apple Photos into Lightroom for my personal collection. I still use Apple Photos, but I also actually like Bridge.
Yeah.
For certain things, I like using Bridge, and I have a bit of when working with clients, I have a bit of a motto going, which is use what you have, maximize the benefits of all that, or at least, use something that doesn't have the steep learning curve like Lightroom has. Yes, it would be my first choice, but it really is not for everyone. And even Bridge needs a bit of an intro, but once it's really easy to use, and it can do so much, and it's free. Yeah. So, these three...
It's a fabulous program.
And Apple Photos, for Mac people, with iPhones and Macs that want to use the ecosystem, it is really good. It cannot do everything, but it can do a lot. The biggest negative probably is that we keep hearing is that the photos are sort of hidden in the app. It's not easy to get them out, but we know how to get them out, and it's feasible and it works. We've done it times and times again. But as long as you move in that Apple ecosystem, I still think that's a great solution.
It is.
And very attractive in terms of viewing and sharing and whatnot.
And you can still keep your own hub off, on an external hard drive safely. Yeah. So there's a lot of flexibility with that. Just with the Lightroom and the Bridge option too, just to let listeners know, that is both PC and Mac.
Yes.
So both of those platforms can use that Adobe program.
That's what I like so much about them. They're independent. And even with Lightroom, that does cost, but you could unsubscribe at any time and not pay anymore. You're not losing anything.
No.
The metadata is embedded. You're independent.
Yep.
And it is a pro tool, really. A lot of photographers use it.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
And I thought I might just use this opportunity to let listeners know that Chantal actually has a fabulous course on Bridge.
Oh,
yes.
thank you.
So we can pop the link up on the show notes as well. Could you just tell us a bit about what you cover in that course? Is it?
Yeah, it's really it takes only an hour actually. And, it doesn't cover all our 5 golden rules. It's basically about how to curate and manage a photo collection in Bridge or with Bridge. And that includes, how do I see my photos in there? How do I customize the whole, the interface so that it's not too clunky? And how do I add keywords? How do I create albums? And, all these sort of things. And it's only about an hour all up.
That's fabulous.
And
it's great. Yeah.
It's all you need, really. It's
really good.
For that one part of the whole big process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I definitely recommend it.
Thank you.
For anyone. Yeah, it's very good. Wonderful. All right. Well, I think that wraps up that episode today about our photo management software. Hopefully that's given some good food for thought for people if they haven't already embarked on a program, or if you're using something that you're not happy with and you're really looking at considering something different. Hopefully this will be some good things a list of things to consider before you jump into the next program. Because we all know it's not like one day this, one day that, and you're all done. It takes a bit of time.
It does take a little bit of time. Yes. But
So-
once, if you choose wisely and you do all these considerations and look at things, it will be a solid choice. Then you don't have to change again in a year or two.
Yep. And then and when you're then bringing new photos into the program, each week or month or however often you do it, it'll just be seamless.
Yeah. Very good.
All right, wonderful. Well, thanks so much for joining us today on our podcast episode. And don't forget to leave a review, and we always welcome feedback. Just email us or get in contact through the social media channels. And I am Fiona from Photo Helper.
And I'm Chantal from Photos in Order. Happy photo organising, everyone, and see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.